Imagine standing under a beautiful apple tree in the early, quiet hours of the morning. Bees are perched on every branch, their flight so sudden and ordinary that you can barely see them. Then you notice the area suddenly empties. The bees are gone, but the tree is still the same tree, and the flowers are still open. There's no wind, no clouds, but the sun is still there. The surroundings are silent. The garden is still empty. So where did those bees go? And why, while we see nothing now? What were they seeing? While you're watching television or reading a book, thousands of bees in a nearby hive will be together, searching for a solution. Some will be changing the vibration frequency of their bodies to alert the rest. Some will be measuring a microscopic change. And the surprising truth is, exactly 45 minutes before the rain starts tomorrow morning, they will all have retreated inside, closed the door, and sealed the hive. That is, before we can even guess. Welcome back to Bees Around Us. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time, because this channel delves deeper into the perceptual world of bees with each video, and every video you miss closes a door to that world. Come to the end, because the last topic I'll discuss today is how the relationship between bees and weather forecasting isn't limited to nature alone, and how humans have overlooked this system for hundreds of thousands of years. If you're ready, let's start with our first point without further delay. 1. They can sense air pressure through their honeycomb. Of course, normally, atmospheric pressure drops first before the weather changes, and this drop begins hours beforehand. This is so gradual and silent that human senses cannot detect it. Meteorological stations measure this with sensitive and careful instruments. But for worker bees, instruments are not necessary. Their Johnston organ can directly perceive changes in air pressure as vibrations. In other words, according to scientific measurements, bees can easily detect vibration amplitudes below 1,000th of a milliliter per second. To elaborate on this a little more, the change created when a single thread of a spider web sways in the wind is actually above this threshold, and the bee senses it. And much more. They can also react mechanically to the pressure drop. What I mean is, the bee can receive the same message simultaneously through two separate channels, and that's where things change. Of course, this dual signal behavior is immediately reflected. A worker bee that normally travels 2 to 3 kilometers away from the hive can almost halve that distance in the first hours of a pressure drop and return much earlier. Naturally, a concentration and crowding begins at the hive entrance. Those who return early warn others with the vibrational language of the honeycomb, and this wave system can spread throughout the hive. The growing echo of this single premonition is enough to activate the hive. Bee biology researchers have shown that this behavioral change begins an average of 3 hours before the storm. In some observations, this period is much longer. When you notice the number of bees suddenly decreasing, and the colony suddenly becoming denser inside the hive, you'll most likely see a rain warning in the next few hours. This is actually quite normal, because that bee already knew about it before opening the app. All this calculation was done by those tiny, evolutionarily engineered receptors inside its body. 2. Temperature and humidity factors can change the language and behavior of flight. Think of it this way. A worker bee can fly approximately 8 to 15 kilometers a day when routinely collecting nectar. But of course, this distance doesn't remain constant. As weather conditions change, the bee's flight behavior also changes. Temperature and humidity are among the quietest but most decisive factors in this change. We know that water vapor in the air increases as rain approaches. Humid air reduces the lift force produced by the bee's wings. In fact, this is not just abstract physics. It is an increase in load that the bee's body directly feels. To give an example, it's like a marathon runner cannot perform the same on a dry day and a humid day. Similarly, bees fly shorter distances in humid air, expending more energy. Of course, temperature also comes into play. Below approximately 12 degrees Celsius, they completely stop flying. But before they stop, there is a transition period. The trips shorten, departures become less frequent, and the nectar gathering rate naturally decreases. During this transition period, hive entry is high. Inside, the vibration of the tongue increases. When the hive sees this chart, it means it has already read the weather forecast. The bee can predict this even before the temperature drops, before clouds arrive, and even before the wind blows. If you notice that bee traffic has unexpectedly slowed down and flights have become much shorter on a warm and sunny morning, I suggest you look not just at the thermometer, but at that bee. The charge it feels is a sign of a change you haven't yet noticed. The hive can read the weather forecast much earlier than you. You only see the result. 3. The electric field inside the hive changes. We have come to one of the most important and valuable points. Bees carry a static electric charge during flight. This is not a random side effect, but part of a system developed through evolution. When they land on a flower, this charge interacts with the plant, and the flower can understand from this electrical trace whether the bee has been visited before. But the part of the story that interests us is different. The electric field of the atmosphere also changes depending on the weather conditions. When a storm approaches, the atmospheric electric charge increases significantly. The bee's sensory systems can detect this change. The fact is that researchers have observed that bees alter their vibrational communication, or dance language, within the honeycomb when atmospheric electrical conditions change. Before the weather deteriorates, this vibrational language inside the hive shows a noticeable intensification and irregularity. The hive speaks a lot before it falls silent. The dance communication, which is regular and measured on a normal day, becomes abrupt, intense, and hasty before a storm. It's as if thousands of bees are whispering the same message to each other at the same time. Ultimately, it's difficult to directly observe this change, but it's easy to see the result. When there is sudden activity at the hive entrance, followed by a sharp silence, this silent transformation in the electrical field is most likely behind that transition. You see a closure from the outside. Inside the hive, however, thousands of messages have been transmitted, decisions have been made, and the system has been sealed before that closure. 4. Flower aromas change with air pressure, and bees follow this. As many of us know, the scent of a flower is not constant. Plants release volatile organic compounds, and the intensity of these compounds' dispersal into the air is directly related to atmospheric pressure. When the pressure drops, meaning rain is approaching, these aroma molecules spread over a wider area in the air. The scent becomes a stronger, more far-reaching signal. The same flower in your garden seems to produce a much more intense scent than usual before a storm, but the flower hasn't changed. Only the pressure has dropped. As you can see, bees follow this change. The scent, intensified with the drop in pressure, attracts bees earlier and faster. Moreover, this also becomes a last chance signal. In the last hours before a storm, bees maximize their foraging speed, making shorter trips but returning much more frequently. It's like an alarm is sounding, the last trip before the weather closes in. This behavior is not accidental. It's a productivity reflex coded by millions of years of evolution. Of course, there's also this. If you notice a sudden surge in bee traffic on a calm afternoon, with bees coming and going hastily and frequently, this isn't a sign of abundance. On the contrary, it's preparation for a closure. That intense traffic will give way to complete silence within a few hours. The bees will have used that window most efficiently and then retreated inside. 5. Collective decision-making is something that operates far beyond individual perception. Specifically, everything we've discussed so far can be said using a single bee as an example. But the real miracle in the hive is how these perceptions are gathered and transformed into a collective action. A hive can house 60 to 80,000 worker bees in the summer. Each of these bees simultaneously carries weather signals from different distances and directions. Tens of thousands of bees, sensing pressure changes, carrying moisture on their wings, perceiving electrical field shifts, and noticing the intensification of flower aromas, return to the same hive at the same time. Essentially, how does this information combine? Every bee with the ability to gather changes its dance language in the honeycomb upon its return. It shortens its rotation, speeds up its dance, and increases its vibration frequency. Seeing this, other bees also change their behavior. There is no central command. The queen bee doesn't have a weather forecast, but thousands of individual signals spread throughout the hive in seconds, and the hive begins to act as a single body. Bee scientists define this mechanism as collective intelligence. A single worker bee, weighing about the same as a coin, can transmit information to the entire hive. That information, encoded through millions of years of evolution, transforms into a system that alerts you hours in advance. In addition to all this, and this is why the hive makes decisions much earlier and much more accurately than an individual bee. A single bee can be wrong, but the behavior of tens of thousands of bees changing in the same direction simultaneously leaves no room for error. Before the storm comes, the hive is closed, the system is sealed, the decision is made. To you, looking from the outside, this is just silence. But inside the hive, before that silence, one of the most complex collective calculations in the universe has been made. Because think about it. Go back to that apple tree in the morning. The bees were gone. The garden was empty. You might have said, "Strange," or you didn't notice at all. But now you know, that emptiness was the result of a decision. The hive's receptors, which read the atmospheric pressure, repeatedly alerted. The worker bees, shortening their flight radius, returned to the honeycomb. The hive, sensing the change in the electrical field, intensified its vibrational language. The bees, rushing to the final call of the flower aromas, completed their final rounds. And finally, that collective intelligence of tens of thousands closed with a single decision. So, before you even noticed, the little crowd in your garden had already predicted the weather. After all, you'd been living with it for years. Now you know. Looking at it from another angle, what I want to ask you now is, have you ever noticed that the bees suddenly disappeared while you were looking at them? How did the weather develop that day? Tell me about it below. I'm really curious. See you in the next video.